Morning, Your Honor.
Morning.
Morning, Mr.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is Paige Spratt with Schwabe, Williamson and Wyatt. I'm the current president of the Clark County Bar Association. For today's meeting, if you could please mute yourself, except for the judges, of course, and then turn off your video. It would allow for a better connection if you're having issues with your connection. For today's presentation, we're going to first hear from Judge Veljacic for updates from Superior Court, and then from Judge Osler to discuss updates from District Court. We will be taking questions using the chat feature in Zoom. That can be found in the, I believe if you're on a computer, it's in the lower right-hand corner. If you are on an iPad or iPhone, it's in the upper right-hand corner under the ... Sorry about that. I'm on an iPad and I get calls pretty frequently. Anyways, so all chat messages will be received by our presenting judges, and they can be addressed either during the presentation or following the presentation. We thank you so much for joining us today. This is a great opportunity to connect with our courts. If there are other CLEs or information that you're interested in receiving, please feel free to email me or Lisa Darko. And I just wanted to say thank you to our judges. I'm going to turn it over to Judge Veljacic.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to keep you all informed on what's going on. Certainly, it's been a continual pattern that we have frequent changes. I will apologize for us starting late. I was in the middle of a great story about Judge Osler. I think everyone was too polite to interrupt me, which sometimes happens when you're a judge. And as you may know, if you appear in front of me, I'm loquacious. So I apologize for that. Let me first say this. Some of us are feeling the stress of these times, and I want to acknowledge that things are certainly different. They're much more difficult in some ways, in other ways easier. I've received quite a bit of feedback from our guardianship probate group through Rachel Brooks. I want to thank Ms. Brooks for that. What's significant about that feedback is there were some comments about how we miss our community. And I certainly share that. And so these are great opportunities to get together. To give you my sentiment on how I feel about the current circumstances we find ourselves in, I want to reference Apocalypse Now. Great movie. Robert Duvall, Marlon Brando, Martin Sheen. Duvall's character in the middle of the movie, commander of the famed 1st Cavalry, Air Cav. There, you'll recall if you've seen the movie, the speakers on the helicopter blaring Ride of the Valkyrie, a Wagner musical opera piece. I believe the famed Zubin Mehta as conductor. In any event, he lands at a beach, he makes his guys surf, and at one point he says, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory. And then he says, someday this war is going to end. So he's up for the fight. He's up for the challenge, but he's ready for it to be done. And I think a lot of us feel that way. I certainly feel that way. Without further ado, let me jump into this. I'm going to cover overall things that are applicable to Superior Court overall, the criminal specific items, civil specific, family law specific, and then I'm going to jump into general questions I received in advance, and also I'll do my best to address those that come over the group chat. Jury trials are currently available in this modified format. We haven't done any. We're prepared to do trials, as I believe is our duty. Again, none have gone forward. Jury selection out at the fairgrounds in an expanded location they have there. It's quite a large building. If you've been there, you know. There's an ongoing preference for remote attendance at hearings rather. Parties, I want to remind all that parties on the Zoom must still behave as if they're in court. I know folks might be wanting to eat their, we had someone eating their chili cheese fries, changing their shirt. We've seen a few things like that. Folks can feel free if they're on the Zoom, but their case isn't being discussed, they can feel free to stop their video, mute themselves. They can still hear what's going on, but they're not showing up. You could even see what's going on if you're in the gallery view. So please remind your clients of that. Not everybody's familiar with Zoom. I'm learning a lot about Zoom. I've got, I have to learn to look at the camera when I'm speaking. I have my notes up on the screen. I'm looking at my written notes just out of habit. I'm trying to learn. And so there's a lot of new to learn. I'm going to put my written notes aside. So we got to be adaptable. Remember not to chat or email with a JA during the docket. The JAs are doing a million things. I was just talking to another attorney. We're discussing the number of things that we need to visually take in. We have people live, and this goes for you all on Zoom. You might have someone live there. You might have a phone going, a computer popping up, email notifications. You're watching the Zoom. You're possibly watching a chat related to the Zoom. You might have your documents in front of you, your notepad. It takes visually registering all that's going on. In the past, I think when you're live, you have other ways of observing. That can be distracting. Certainly it is for our JAs. Again, they've got a lot going on. Don't email and chat with them during the docket. Please have any documents that will be needed prepared and to the court beforehand if the item is on the docket for a time beyond the current week for my department. And I'll get to judge-specific issues in a bit. If it's beyond the current week, send that stuff hard copy. Including the proposed order. There's still time for mail in that case. Otherwise, you can email the order at least the day prior. If it's day of, we can't guarantee we're going to see it. We're going to be in court. Zoom docket info is now placed on the Clark County website. From here on out, it'll be that way. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. This could be a disaster, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I go to clark.wa.gov. I didn't. clark.wa.gov. And there's a find it fast window. Court docket and forms. It's on the left-hand side. And if you scroll to the bottom of that screen, let me share my screen before I go too much farther. Okay, here we go. Oh goodness, I gotta open this. Give me a moment. Here it is. No, I don't know that I'm allowed to share screen. Am I allowed that function? Here it is. Okay. There we go. There's the website, okay? You go here to court docket and forms. Scroll to the bottom there. Zoom hearing information, that's one way. You can also have all the daily court dockets available to you. So, you know, you find where's my case, you go daily court docket, but they're also available as remote trial and hearing information. This points to that same Zoom information. You scroll down there and you've got your dockets. Now, here we go. These are live links. to the Zoom invite. Let's say you're in front of, oh, that guy, he takes forever. Judge Veljacic, he's slow as molasses, methodical, but slow as molasses. You click on it, and here you go. Here's your link. It should pop up. There you go. I did have trouble earlier where it kind of locked my my Explorer, but I don't know that it hasn't happened since. So maybe that was just that one time. I don't know. So give me a moment. I will. All right. So I'm back with you. So be aware that's how you can find that Zoom information. I think we just started doing it last week. I'm not precisely sure when. I've got to hurry here. I've got a lot more to cover. Schedule, we're working on scheduling. There's space limitations. Certainly we have, for example, departments 2 and 4 on our top floor here, the 5th floor. They can only have about 9 people in there if you socially distance, which we are doing. That creates limitations on where things can be held based on expectation regarding how many folks show up. And so I'm working on that personally. We have some changes coming to our schedule. I don't know if you all pay attention to our schedule, and I think you do, that's why I'm talking about it. District Court is going to be using a courtroom of ours, as I understand it, beginning September 1 for jury selection. And so that's going to require some additional changes. So I continue to work on that schedule with our administrator, Ms. Gurley. Docket procedures, very important to remember what docket your case is on. We have, for criminal matters, is what I'm rolling into now, criminal matters. We have a first appearance docket, and we had to split that from what had been a previously co-located, co-occurring criminal docket, just a criminal motions docket. We had those two things in G1, the ground floor, big Superior Court courtroom for years. But because of the time it takes to do things over Zoom, it was initially impossible to get all that done in a reasonable time. So we split that off. That continues to be the case. We have recently added to our first appearance docket about 6 motions. So previously those motions would go to the criminal docket. We do our first appearance docket, our criminal docket, we had them in the same place. The next iteration was that we had them in separate locations. We're still there with the separate locations, but we've added the ability to handle some of those motions in our arraignment on our first appearance docket in G1. Our hope is to someday combine those dockets again as it frees up a courtroom and a judge. I don't know when we'll get there. So be aware that you need to check the dockets to find out which docket your matter is on. If the judge is setting it over, make sure you press the judge for that information. What are you setting it over to, Judge? The criminal or the first appearance? We continue, as far as I know, I am managing numbers in the jail. I think that's an important aspect of trying to keep it as safe as possible over there. Civil matters. We currently have 10 items on the probate docket with some flexibility to add an extra 3. There's certainly a preference for agreed, non-objected to items that are sent to the assigned department for ex parte entry. I am aware, after asking for input, that there's that limitation is creating some problems with the probate guardianship bar getting items in. I've heard some talk. I just handled the probate docket a couple weeks ago. I've heard some discussion of having to wait 6 to 7 weeks to get an item on, as well as the difficulty of GALs having to put items on and their difficulty finding availability on a docket, and also just general difficulty in knowing how to cite things on. I'll take that to our bench to see if we can expand availability. I know certainly in the early phases of guardianships, there's timelines, and not having available hearing time can cause problems. So I'm aware of that. Thank you for the feedback. I'll see what we can do about that. I've got a whole bunch more I can talk about. I'll fast forward to settlement conferences and family law. We will be needing our courtrooms for other matters. We've got a UD surge possibly coming up with the 7/25 expiration of the state moratorium on unlawful detainers is what I'm talking about, evictions. We have the federal moratorium ending 8/1. And so we expect a surge in unlawful detainer actions. That's going to create a demand for a standalone unlawful detainer docket versus co-locating that with our civil docket, which we've done in the past. What that means, these additional demands for space means that settlement conferences might not always have a courtroom available to put a settlement on the record. So be prepared to draft a CR2A on the spot. I know some of our bench have done that. And so that's a viable way. Certainly it's easier to swear the parties in and put it on the record orally, but that's not always going to be available. So I ask for your flexibility. Everything I've seen from our bar locally has just been outstanding. And so thank you for working through the difficulty with the court. We continue to do our best. If you have questions, bench bar meeting is a great place to bring those up at. I believe it's every other Tuesday. I believe possibly second and fourth Tuesday of the month. No, it's once a month. I can't keep track. I'll defer to Rachel Brooks or another member of our bench bar committee to give you the specifics on that. So thank you. I think I got it done in less than 20 minutes. So I yield the balance of my time to my colleague from district court.
You made my job easier because I have a lot of the same updates, so I appreciate that. Like Judge Veljacic, I'd like to share in thanking you guys for being so flexible and allowing us to get what I would say pretty sure is our new norm for some time in the future. And we've been doing Zoom hearings for a little over 2 months now, which is a little unbelievable at this point in time. But I foresee the way things are going, at least county and statewide, that we're probably going to be in this Zoom hearing platform in district court for quite a while. As you guys know, right now we're not planning, and we're not even, there'll be further updates when we get close to doing jury trials, other than the fact that we're not setting jury trials at this point until after September 1st. So that's kind of on hold for us right now. We do have open courts, as I think Superior Court does, but I think the strong preference from the judges is to try to get as many folks on Zoom as possible. And we started out, and you guys have been extremely helpful to us in getting that platform working. And now it's like we're starting to see just about everything under the sun. I think the one that topped it off is, I believe, Judge Slate had a defendant appear while she was either flipping burgers or serving burgers at a fast food restaurant as part of her Zoom hearing. So we spoke as a bench yesterday, and we've come up with sort of, and it kind of echoes what Judge Veljacic was saying, some sort of Zoom protocols that we're hoping, it's not so much people that are represented by attorneys, but we're hoping that you'll reiterate with all of your clients that these are court proceedings and we need to address them so accordingly. So we are requiring all attorneys to wear professional business attire. We would ask that you advise your clients that they should dress as if they're present in a courtroom, because they are present in a courtroom, which means they actually do have to put clothes on. There's been a few hearings where I've been a little bit nervous even about that. Their actual or virtual background shouldn't be distracting or contain inappropriate subject matter. Please encourage them to go to a quiet location with an adequate internet connection. We have a lot of people that like to walk around while they're on the Zoom meetings, or even drive. And we're requiring all folks to remain in a location where they can sit still comfortably and remain seated during the entire scope of their hearing at any point. We also would not have an objection to them turning off their video and muting themselves if they're not actually appearing in front of the court at the time, as Judge Veljacic just outlined. We'd like them to be on time and remain in the hearing until the court recesses or the litigant is released by the court. We'd like other devices not to be distracting and turned off, such as other cell phones, pagers, and things like that during the hearing. Folks will enter the waiting room. The different judges use the waiting room differently, but they should remain in the waiting room until admitted in the courtroom. And then in general, all Zoom participants shall not appear from a bathroom, sleep or lay down, chew gum, eat or drink or smoke or vape. They should be sober and they should behave appropriately during the hearings. To go along with that and to kind of emphasize it, we are going to start live streaming next Monday, which means there'll be a YouTube live streaming as long as the Zoom hearing is going, so that people, just the general public, will be able to watch a Zoom hearing. Maybe family members or persons that would not normally be admitted into the Zoom hearing will be able to watch it without having to come to the courthouse in order to do that. And so we want to make sure that we look as professional as possible when we start live streaming. And just a note, when that live streaming starts, even if the court goes off the record, as long as that Zoom hearing is open, that live streaming will continue to record. As soon as the Zoom hearing ends, the live streaming will end. But we want everybody to be cognizant of side conversations. I know sometimes we visit while we're waiting for the next client to be called or appeared, and we'll just have to be cognizant that that will now be streamed out to a broader audience. We do have some upcoming changes, having said all that, to our Zoom platform. In addition to the live streaming, the Zoom protocols, one thing that we're looking at and trying to get funding for is iPads at the courthouse, secure iPads at the courthouse, which would be outside the interpreter office. So we recognize that not everybody has the capability to appear virtually or sometimes even telephonically. Those folks can come to live court, but we wanted to give them also another option. And if the attorneys are on the Zoom platform, it's sometimes easier to communicate with your clients if they are on that same platform. So we will keep you updated, but we are looking at getting 3 iPads and kind of putting them almost, it's been described to me as like voter booths. They would be secured. They'd be outside that interpreter office down in the hallway outside of G2. We are also looking at doing global invites for our dockets, much like Superior Court is doing. So when we started this Zoom platform, we got it up and running as quickly as we could, and we created an extreme amount of work for our court staff and our JAs, and even you folks, for making sure we had proper contact information for your clients. Our JAs and our support staff are having to enter all that information individually, sending out Zoom invites. So we're really looking forward to how can we streamline this and make it much more user-friendly and a lot less work for our support staff. And so we're looking, and hopefully we'll get that up and running fairly soon, where you can also click on a link and get you right into that Zoom meeting if you're a participant. We, as a bench, talked about, and I think Judge Veljacic kind of touched upon it, we're trying to take additional safety measures in the courthouse as well, for the eventuality that we will start getting more people appearing in person. So we're trying to prepare for that. We're looking at putting up plexiglass around the JAs and the judges Of course, you've seen the mask order. The masks are required even in the courtroom unless the judge allows you to remove it while you're addressing the court. We have social distancing stickers down in the courtrooms. We've removed all of our additional chairs from the courtroom to promote social distancing. We've come up with kind of a preferential list if we were to get too many audience members, that the important participants like the attorneys and the defendants and alleged victims and advocates and things like that would be given preferential treatment in the courtroom, and we might have to excuse others if we were to reach our maximum capacity, which we've posted on each of the courtroom doors. And then I think that covers everything. We just would encourage you as much as possible to get your attorneys on video. I know some people don't like to do it, but it's becoming our new way of communicating with each other. It's a better than telephonic only. And they might need some help from you folks on getting up and running, but if they can do that, that would be great. If they can't, we do have other alternatives for them, such as live and hopefully those iPads that will be available at the courthouse. Miscellaneous matters that don't have anything to do necessarily with Zoom. The judges at some point in time had agreed to do motions to vacate ex parte, but those must be sent to the prosecutor's office, the appropriate prosecutor's office, for approval first. We have DP, deferred prosecution orientations, are now being done by video, and they're every Tuesday at 3 p.m. So you can contact the probation department to get signed up for that if you have a client that's looking at deferred prosecution. I am told that we now have our victims panel up and running. That's also being done virtually. T4C and decision points, which are classes offered by our probation department, are being done virtually as well. I asked about the driving while suspended class, if you had someone interested in that, and they're doing those individually now, but we're looking at getting that virtually. But for now, you can call Mabry, and there's still an avenue that they'll work with folks that are trying to get their license issues back. The probation officers are now doing Zoom video check-ins with their clients, the defendants. And then in conjunction with Superior Court, we're working on getting 2 more booths at the jail for those video arraignment things that we do at the jail. Now that Superior Court is usually using those booths and we have a lot of dockets running at the same time, we're trying to get more booths operational. Finally, per the True Blood settlement, I just wanted to mention that if you have a case where a 1077 evaluation has been ordered, the court may appoint a forensic navigator to evaluate if the defendants are eligible for out-of-custody restoration services. So those things are all available. We're probably going to be stuck in our virtual world for a while, and we do appreciate everybody getting on board with that and helping us out. I think things have been running smoothly, and we've cleared out a lot of cases, which has been really nice. And we have a lot of people that don't even live here in Clark County, so I think it's a nice convenience to offer to those folks. So, and I don't have anything else at this time, so I think it's open for questions.
Thank you so much, Judge Osler and Judge Veljacic. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. One thing I want to note, Judge Veljacic provided some information on the Superior Court Bench Bar Committee. Zoom is the second Tuesday of every month, and for information, please contact Nick Alexander of the and I'm gonna completely butcher this, Entigoff firm.
Edengoff, the Edengoff firm. Close enough. Do you want me just to fire off on some of these questions, Judge Osler?
Yeah, if you have some, go ahead. I don't have any. They're not coming into me, so you must have them.
We're working on, what we've done is create recurring Zoom meetings for our criminal dockets. One of the questions here is our schedule. last you were told it was Monday through Thursday in custody changes of plea. I believe we may have dropped Thursday just because it wasn't being used. Our current schedule, I'm looking for, it's not my week for that I'm aware of. I'm doing some dockets this week. Give me a moment. It's changed, I know, but I haven't committed it to memory, so I have to look it up. We had dropped one because of a lack of use. No, I still have a non-jury judge doing a Thursday out of custody plea docket. It may be that it's canceled this week. So I don't know if the current, I'll look into whether our current schedule is up there. That schedule will be changing again, as I've indicated. So thank you for highlighting that lacking information, and I'll do my best to get that updated. There's also a question about Zoom links for the daily criminal dockets. As I started saying, we created recurring Zooms for these dockets. And so, yes, the plan is to have those up there, given the volume that's not there quite yet, but our admin staff is working on that. Live streaming hearings, I don't know about hearings. Trials for sure. We're going to have those not on YouTube. I don't recall the platform. It may be just a live Zoom link for open courts purposes. And like Judge Osler said, we're open. You know, not everybody wants to come to the courthouse. I understand that. We also want to keep capacity, in spite of capacity, we want to keep population in the courthouse low. And so I don't know the answer on Zoom, like a general open Zoom for the world or whoever's interested for hearings. I don't know the answer. I'll find out. And then I think that's it. Process of change of pleas is not known by the clerk's office. They will not let you cite things in and tell you different days. Oh, yes. We do need a clear schedule posted that everyone can follow. I agree. I agree. Mr. Weber's on the Zoom. I don't know if he prepared to chime in on that or not, but I don't have answers with regard to, it's an independent office from the court. So I can't answer that. Yes, sending agreed orders to department judges and JAs. I believe it depends. Are you talking, is the question about ex parte? Yes, agreed orders. And then that depends on whether you mail it in and it goes to the clerk's office or whether it's delivered. Is it an agreed order for an upcoming hearing? If it's a hearing I have, for example, you know, the next day, I want to know there's an agreed order. So that should go to the JA. It'll make it there quicker and we'll know and we'll be able to strike the matter. And so I'm not sure what that question is about. I hope I gave enough information there with my answer. Citing things, JA approval to get onto a docket. We do have limitations on a lot of our dockets, on our change of plea docket. That's simply because of volume. I don't think you need approval to get to all dockets. You shouldn't, but I will clarify. I will try to, so apparently Scott Weber and I need to talk about some of these things. Scott, you're listening. We have a good relationship. I'll chat with him about some of these things. Can you please clarify what, I'm doing my best here, folks. Can you please clarify what may be brought ex parte and what should be cited for hearing? So guardianship, ex parte, non-contested. My understanding is that if you have an uncontested matter, you can send that ex parte. And so that's fine. If a judge has a problem with it, they won't sign it. So we're reading these things. And then I think there's 5 new messages. Problems getting well, they're coming in too fast. I'm gonna hold on so I can read because they're now popping around a little bit. I'll turn it over to anyone else. I'll encourage you to come to the bench bar meeting second Tuesday of the month. It used to be in Judge Fairgreaves' chambers. Of course, it's on Zoom now. Contact Nick Alexander for the Zoom info. You can also contact me, Judge Vanderwood, Judge Fairgreave. We'll do our best to get you the Zoom invite. So I'll defer to Judge Osler if she wants to handle a couple questions. I have to navigate this.
I actually don't have them. I don't think I can't see what you're seeing, unfortunately.
I'm told to put them on the 4th floor mailboxes.
Yeah, Judge, I'm not seeing them either. I think that they're probably just going directly to you. So sorry about that.
I'm on the Zoom group chat. No, that's okay. I'll do my best here. Ex parte orders okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to preserve this chat. I don't have answers to a lot of these things. They're things that are outside of my knowledge. So I'm going to cut and paste these and see if I can get answers. Okay. And maybe in our next session, I can go ahead and get this for y'all. Okay, get some answers, and if not, sooner. So thank you for the feedback. It's good to have information that needs to be answered. So I don't know that I have anything else.
I did get one question from Lisa that says, how are we handling motions for default where the other party has never appeared? And so we'd be handling that as we would probably handle any other motions for default when we used to appear in court. We'll just do it via Zoom, and you know, as long as there's been service and no answer and they're not in the military and everything else checks out, I imagine that the judge would grant it. We also always have our ex parte. I don't know if that was meant to go to Superior Court or just District Court, but we also have our ex parte docket.
The trend I'm seeing is ex parte is the big issue, and so
you can only submit agreed orders ex parte to clerk for signature. Everything else you have to send to the assigned judicial officer. When District Court changes court hearings, attorneys are not getting notified.
Okay.
And are we talking just about civil or criminal? I don't know who wrote that in.
It would be helpful if I don't know. I do need clarification on some of these questions. I'll ask the person. It seems it's a manageable number enough. The person's asking the question. I know one is Josephine Townsend. I'll reach out to Ms. Townsend. If there are others on there, I'm not seeing the name, and I don't know if that's by design or what. Please contact me, and I'll do my best to answer the question. Okay. Otherwise, it will, I suppose at the next bench bar, second Tuesday of the month, I can address some of these things. And I'll ask the next judge presenting one of these. I believe it may be Judge Vanderwood on the 12th of August, but the bench bar will be quicker than that, so sooner than that. So I'll do my best to answer those questions. And again, thank you.
Yeah, and if ever anybody has a specific question about district court, if you want to email it to me, feel free to do that, and I'll try to get an answer out. I have part of a question here that I just want to follow up on. I think things have been confusing, and that's in the that's correct. So what happened when we shut down for those 2.5 months or however it was before we got that Zoom platform up and running? We were accumulating a huge backlog of cases that we weren't hearing. So every judge kind of approached it differently. I tried to clear out all of those backlog cases, which meant I had 2 straight weeks, morning and afternoon, just straight of Zoom hearings trying to get caught up. And we're still not completely caught up. Not every judge has been doing it that way. So hopefully as we are clearing out the backlog, things are going to get a little bit more back to normal on our regular dockets. And if you folks have the ability to look up who's on a docket in the future, those people will be on there, and you don't necessarily have to wait for that Zoom invite. If you're curious as to where your client is, they're already scheduled. It's just the Zoom invites tend to go out right before the dockets because we're constantly getting updated information from people with addresses and things like that. So I think we're getting to a point where we're going to be having more normal schedules. You can check the judges' individual calendars to make sure you know when their regular criminal dockets are, when they're doing arraignments and things like that. If there's issues with civil, I'll have to look into that. I can't really tell from the question. So, and I'll, yeah, we post all of our calendars on there, and every judge's calendar is a little bit different, but we'll try to get that up on the website if it isn't there, so you can see when we're having those hearings.
I'll say that if I've had an opportunity to catch up a little bit on a couple of these questions. One is a concern that you may have an emergency ex parte matter. And that's maybe delivered to the inbox on the 4th floor. So those get checked whenever our JA makes their way to the 4th floor, which typically if something needs to be copied, and that presumes that we don't have court going on because they do things while we're in court that requires that they stay at their desk. Sometimes they help each other. Hey, you know, if someone else from the 3rd floor is going to the 4th, they'll grab their paperwork. If you have something that's an emergency, I think it'd be best to email that department to make sure they check. Make sure they check the box. Make sure they're looking at it. You know, it's just a practical problem that it's a physical thing often of just getting the documents. And if they've just checked and something's dropped in the box, they may not check that day or that later that afternoon. And so make sure you reach out to the department. And of course, we don't want things just sitting there. So that's all I've got. There's some explanation here. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, thank you so much. If there's any other questions, please feel free to email them to Lisa Darko or I, and we can get them over to Judge Osler or Judge Veljacic. And we're also intending to continue providing these informational sessions to continue this correspondence and dialogue with the court as we navigate the pandemic. It's been incredibly helpful. And so thank you so much, judges, for your time today.
Sure.
This has been one of those benefits I think we could see from the pandemic, is to really open up this dialogue and conversation. And so we really appreciate your time, and thank you to everybody and all the members of the bar for being a part of today. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email them out. We can get them over to the courts and try to get those specific issues addressed so they can be addressed during our next informational session. which I think we expect to, and Lisa, you can chime in here, but I think what we're expecting is probably in 2 weeks to have another update, potentially a month. It gets a little bit more difficult in the summer months. So again, thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.